Got that here. Yeah. Better bring that down. Check 1, 2. 1, 2. Can everybody hear me? Maybe a little bit more. Check, check, check. 1, 2, 1, 2. Is that pretty good, everybody? Is that too loud? Yes. Okay. Well, hello, everyone. Howdy doobie. Howdy doobie. Howdy doobie. How's it going, everybody? My name is Sean McAllister. I'm the Executive Director of DFW NORML. Welcome to our July meeting here at the Fort Worth Central Library. Please give yourselves a hand for making activism a priority in your life. Today we have a very special event. One of the men that I respect very, very much in this Texas fight for marijuana activism, David Bass, has come in from Austin. David is a U.S. Army veteran, more than 20 years, right, David? 21. 21 years, U.S. Army veteran. He's going to be speaking about OperationTrapped today. That's going to be our keynote address here today. We'll also have a raffle. You guys want to know what we're raffling today? Yes. Does everybody have your raffle ticket? Let me see it. Yep. You don't get a raffle ticket. So, has anybody heard of CBD oil?
Yes. Last meeting.
Last meeting? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Here, right? The CBD. Yeah. So, Honeybee was one of the presenters, and I got a little brochure right here. Honeybee Healthy Living. They're a Texas company who very, very much supports your rights to a legal cannabis market that's regulated in a sensible way. They came and just gave us a whole bunch of CBD to give out today. So I've got a 100 milligram, a 250 milligram, and a 500 milligram CBD tincture, and each one comes with a 100 milligram CBD vape as well. So this is a pretty good little prize pack right here, especially that 500 milligram. You're gonna have a good time. Whoever gets the 500 milligram. And so the vape juice is cinnamon flavored, and then there's one that's natural flavored. I wonder what that tastes like. But does anybody want to go home with some CBD today? Make some noise. Put your name on this one, Perry. Okay, Perry wins a lot of stuff. So you get one free raffle ticket per normal event, just so you know, and then we sell additional ones if you want to increase your odds. Okay, so raffle tickets, DFW NORML table up at the corner, and they'll be doing those the entire meeting, and we'll save the raffle drawing for the very end. Is that cool? Okay, so now we know what we're going to raffle off. Does anybody want a very, very brief explanation about what the hell happened at Lake and Bake?
Yes.
Brief? Good. Did anybody see the video of the lady who was throwing us out?
Yes.
Kicking us out for smoking dope in the woods? Well, that's what she said on the video. I couldn't believe it. She even had a megaphone to yell at us with, which I thought was appropriate. She's lucky I didn't bring my megaphone because it's way louder. But what happened at Lake and Bake? That we had to have additional permits for vendor booths and amplified music. Two things that we never had to have an additional permit for before, the last time we were at that same pavilion. And so it was a bit of a surprise to find that out the day of. and having the police officers of the city of Grapevine telling us this, that they're shutting our event down, nothing we can do, and it's over vendors and amplified music, which that seems silly, right? Yeah. So around the time that they shut us down, we probably, what do you think, David, had about 400 people at our pavilion already? About 400 people, and they had turned away around 200 cars of people who were coming to our event. And they just were completely unwilling to work with us. And imagine being me or Adam or David and being in that position where you're surrounded by Grapevine's finest and they're telling you that they're shutting your event down, there's nothing you can do about it. And then you get to go and break that news to the almost 500 people that are there. That sucks. Sickening feeling, totally sickening feeling. But there was a tiny, tiny silver lining on this that we did not discover until the next day. Would you like to know what it was?
Yeah!
Had nothing to do with people smoking dope in the woods, why we were kicked out. Actually had nothing to do with the vendor booth permit, and had nothing to do with amplified music. Anybody want to guess what it was? Potties, boom. The pavilion we had a toilet system with 2 bathrooms, all right? Seemed like it would be fine. And we probably, what did I say? We had about 400 people there when we got canned. I found out, well, David found out after speaking to, was it the assistant of the Parks and Recreation Department? So one of the higher ups in Parks and Rec at Grapevine, who basically told us the reason that we got shut down was that the toilets at our facility are on a septic rather than a sewage system. And they only hold waste for about 250 people. So by the time they shut us down, we were already beyond that. That was why they revoked our permit. Had nothing to do with amplified music, it was shitters. Toilets. It was a great reason because, let's be fair, I didn't want to go swimming in feces. And I didn't want any of you to either. It just kind of sucks that nobody decided to inform us of that limitation until we had already gone well beyond it. So, what I don't want you to feel like is Grapevine doesn't want us, because that is not the conversation that David Sloan had. We actually found out that they do want us. They want us back. They're kind of sorry how it all went down, actually. They feel really crappy about it. It was a shitty situation, or it could have been. Luckily, no one got arrested, although watching David Sloan get in the face of these cops, I thought I was going to be calling him a lawyer at some point. Because he is a bulldog. I mean, you think about it, when the cops show up to an event, everybody usually goes the opposite way. But it's like me, David, and Adam who are going towards the police. And so I got the impression that it had nothing to do with what we were doing. It had nothing to do with people smoking pot out there, because let's be fair, people are smoking pot at that lake regardless of whether or not DFW NORML is there, and probably every lake in the state. So it had nothing to do with that, and in fact, we were told by the city employees that we were dealing with that they actually support the cause. It had nothing to do with what we had going on. You never would have known that from that lake manager that was out there making an ass out of herself, yelling at us with a megaphone, and getting videoed by Brooke over there, and Adam's girlfriend Sierra, which those videos have been seen a bunch of times now. Let me tell you, that woman is mortified that she did that. So embarrassed. They actually asked us to take those videos down because of how silly it makes her look. Of course we're not going to take those down. Are you crazy? Y'all kick us out. But the point is, we're welcome, which is kind of not how I felt when we were getting kicked out. And I've never had police so unwilling to work with us before. And I realize now that it had nothing to do with us. It was the urgency on the dookie. I just feel like they could have told us that day rather than tell us it was reasons A, B, and C when it was actually D for dookie. And so it just kind of seemed silly. It kind of seemed like a waste. But to be fair, we probably will not go back to the city of Grapevine anytime soon. Just because I didn't really like being yelled at with a megaphone. I don't really care if we can be there if somebody doesn't want us to be there who's in a position of authority. So that was crappy. Again, I don't mean to keep going there, but I mean, we've been doing NORML events. I've been involved with NORML since 2011, and we've never had our permit revoked before. That was the first time that we've ever had a permit revoked. And it kind of pissed us all off because a lot of work goes into those events. So, sucky. It's good to know it wasn't really us. It was just the circumstance. Now,
Can I add something to that?
certainly. Everybody give my attorney, David Sloan, a hand. You should probably be your attorney if you don't have one.
Yeah. The permit situation and everything out at Grapevine, honestly, we've been there before. We've done this before. You know, we've gone in and gotten the permits before, you know, the exact same location and everything. And we did just like we've always done this time. But this is what's escaping everybody is that the reason the city of Grapevine shut us down is they were freaking out. They had not only had they seen we had almost 500 people there, they were looking at our social media and everything else, and they knew there were going to be at least 900 there within the hour. So they had to make a snap decision. You know, and now the lady at the gate, honestly, she took it upon herself to close the park. And she got some deep shit over that because we had already worked and negotiated with the police that everybody could go around, you know, and salvage their day. You know, they're already there, you know, and she shut that gate. So there's clearly one individual that we had a problem with out there. But from on high, and I'm sure she was the one raising hell and brought it to the attention of on high that these numbers were growing and everything. I'm sure she was crying, you know, the sky's falling. But here's the thing. Let's not lose sight of this. And I'm proud of the fact that our family has grown too damn big. Woo! It's hard for us sometimes as a board to remind ourselves that it's not just a few stoners in the woods. I call that bragging rights. They had to shut it down. It's too damn many people.
It's kind of awesome that the first time we do a 710 event, which if you're not a dabber, you know about 420 is for flower. That's for the flower culture piece, man. 710 is for the oil culture, the concentrate culture, if you will, dabs, tinctures, all that type of stuff. So our event was on July 10th, 710. It's kind of awesome that our first 710 event got shut down. I mean, in its own weird, like, adding to the origin story of this organization, it's pretty cool.
I think it's historic.
It's historic.
Do we have any more shirts?
We do. I was actually about to mention that. We do. If you want to support DFW NORML a little bit, we still have a bunch of Lake and Bake shirts left over. They're the red, white, and blue white tanks. Very comfy, great print, awesome design, custom for us. And we still have a bunch of those and some of these wristbands available. So if you want to make a donation, we'll give you one of those. And you can kind of support the cause in a way that's a little different from the way we normally like to do it. We normally like to come right up to the law and say, or the line and say, hey, look, there's a stupid line here. Why is this line here? And this one time we crossed the line with no arrests.
Okay,
and had we had more toilets, it would have been all good.
Yeah, exactly.
So I call that a learning experience. So on that note, we're trying to get a Lake and Bake do-over set up for Joe Pool. 3 weeks ago, we began the process of trying to get a permit from Joe Pool. Got our initial permit within a week, and found out that because we were going to have over 250 people, we had to have a special event permit. This is the bane of my existence, guys. These specialty permits. So we submit the form for that, and over a week later, we still haven't gotten any word back from them. We were supposed to hear something definitive yesterday. They just blew it off. So in my mind, it's worth it to move Lake and Bake back a couple of weekends, 2, 3, maybe even 4, just to make sure that we have all the ducks in a row so that doesn't happen again. Do you agree?
Yes. Yeah.
So with that said, we probably won't be having Lake and Bake next weekend as planned, which sucks. I really hate that. I hate to set an expectation and us not make it. But at the same time, I'd rather us not get to Lake and Bake shut down back to back. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
So we'll reconvene on Lake and Bake. Hopefully it'll happen in August. If not, then it'll be in September. But I'm really trying to make it happen in August. I had an event there. A ton of people showed up. no hassle from the lake at all. And it was a great day for a lot of people. So was anybody at this last lake and bake? Did anybody show up and get turned away? So you showed up late and didn't get to come in? Okay, all right, cool. Well, guys, it's pretty cool to me, like David said, that we went from this little pissant permit being okay for what we're doing to now they got to give us shit every time we want to do something. Because we're so big. We're so big because otherwise you're talking about, you know, we could rent a pavilion for somebody's birthday party or something, and you're not expecting more than a couple hundred people. No permit really required, it's a reservation. But when you're talking about 500 people or more, any city is going to require a special event permit. And we're at that point now where we can't even throw small events anymore. That is huge for us because other organizations just like us are struggling to get to that point. Yep. Libertarian Party is a great example of that, which I love the Libertarian Party. There's just not as much weed at those events, so I think a few of you show up. As much. I know there's some. I've been to a bunch of them, trust me. But a Green Party event? I've been. There was nobody else there. No offense. I mean, if I'm going to come, I'd like to see at least some of you. Even one other person would be great. I don't want to be the only person there. But so it's really, really cool to me that we've gotten to the point now where our events are so big now that the city has to pay attention. And they try to give us a little crap and even try to work with us a little bit. Going so far as to apologize to us when they screw up. That is huge, guys. Because as recently as 2011, when we were trying to get permits at these places, as soon as we got to the M in DFW NORML, what that stands for, you know what we would hear? Click. Shit. Every time. And now they don't care. It's like we are seriously normalizing the behavior of what it means to be a pot smoker out in public. And they're less afraid of that. Do you think people who are less afraid of marijuana are more likely to support ending cannabis prohibition?
Yeah.
I do. And so I think it's huge that we as a group have gotten to this point now where they're trying to stop us in some cases. And in other cases, they just don't know how to handle us because we're just such a force to be reckoned with. So I think that that deserves an applause. DFW NORML, we're the biggest NORML chapter in the country. We have 1,000 active members growing every day. And if you're not a member, I would love to invite you to become a member. That man right there, Eric Espinoza, is our secretary. He'll fill out your membership card and mail it to you. And Carl, do me a favor, stand up and turn around and show people how you're wearing your card. This is how I like to see our members, oh goodness, not falling. But this is how I like to see our members sporting their membership cards at events, is on a lanyard, somewhere public, somewhere visible, because I want to know if you're a member. Because I want to come and say hello. And also, I want you to be collecting these awesome hat pins like I do, right? But for me, for DFW NORML, it's kind of been crazy going from asking permission to letting the city know. And so now it's gotten to this, you know, the nadir, I guess is the word, where if we get any bigger, I don't really even know what the next step for us is. What happens when you have 2,000 members? I mean, get your own building, right? I mean, there's a fleet of vehicles out there that have DFW NORML logos on it that thousands of people see every day. We host free events at places like the Fort Worth Central Library that curious individuals can come and join us. What is the next step when you have 2,000 members? Anybody?
Suggestion, and this is for somebody who lives in Fort Worth, and this is my first meeting. It's hard for me to get to some of the meetings in Dallas, like White Rock Library. That was too far for me to go. So maybe splitting sometimes the monthly meetings into two sides so that you can do that, but come together at bigger events like the Lake Debate. I know that's hard, but
That is very hard when you've got a core group of 12. 12 volunteers, that's our core group, by the way, for 1,000 members. 12 people make DFW NORML happen. You could be 13. I live in Arlington, so I get to go all the way to Dallas, I get to go all the way to Fort Worth, I go wherever the hell. But that's why we go back and forth between Dallas and Fort Worth, because From Fort Worth to Dallas, for some people, that is too far. And I get it. I'm totally with that. The Metroplex is a big place. We're DFW NORML. It's up to us to figure it out, right? That said, I'm curious, who thinks they came the furthest today? How far did you come? Where? How long did that take you? An hour? Ladies? 2 hours. Where do you come from?
Cisco.
Wow.
Cisco. Anybody come more than 2 hours? That's Man and Joyce. They're actually on the homepage of our website with a photo of me.
Every meeting, as long as I can remember, as long as I've been at DFW NORML, they have come every single meeting, every single event, drove 2 hours. You guys just have a car.
They got every wristband they were getting.
These ladies have been normal longer than me. Seriously.
No, I didn't get into NORML until 2011.
That's when I got in.
Oh.
Well, do you remember your first event? What was it? Yeah, either of y'all. You don't remember, there was weed there, that's why.
Actually, my first event in Texas with NORML was in Dallas. We had a March 2008. DFW NORML had a worldwide marijuana march.
At City Hall?
Yeah. You remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where we met.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
Woo!
My first event.
That, hey, bravo. I like dedication. I like people who show up and don't make excuses. I think that's awesome. That's what my core group of volunteers does, and that's why they're my core group of volunteers. They show up, they don't make excuses, and that's how you change laws. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, who is ready to hear from our keynote speaker, Mr. David Bass? David Bass, come on down, please. Yeah, actually, why don't we keep this going? This man served 21 years in the military, and now he's continuing to serve in this country while working to end cannabis prohibition.
Hey, it's an honor to be here with the largest NORML chapter in the great state of Texas. And did you say y'all are the largest in the whole United States?
I don't know for sure, but I'm going to claim it.
I think you guys are the largest chapter in the United States. I have not heard of another chapter as large as DFW NORML. So you guys are doing a fantastic job. Give yourself a hand. How many veterans do we have here today? Please stand up and let us recognize you. All of our veterans. All right, so can you hear me good?
Yes, sir.
So my name is David Bass. I'm the Director of Veterans Outreach for Texas NORML. And I started working with NORML in 2012 and became the Director of Veterans Outreach in 2013. And the reason that I went to Austin from Killeen, I live right outside of Fort Hood. The reason I went to my first Texas NORML meeting in Austin was because when I retired from the Army in 2006, I was rated 60% disabled. 30% for chronic pain and for some injuries I had on active duty, and 30% for post-traumatic stress disorder. And so my medical doctors in the military, and then when I retired, my VA doctors prescribed opioid pain medications for the chronic pain and psychotropic drugs for the post-traumatic stress disorder. And the pain medication I ended up on through the VA was hydrocodone, and it's very addictive. And I became addicted to my pain meds. And I was also drinking heavily because if you've been in the military, you know that the military, especially the Army, but the others also, it's a drinking culture. I first joined the Oklahoma National Guard in 1981 as an infantry soldier. And in my National Guard unit, drinking was part of our weekend drills. And we actually, back in those days, took beer. Military, you know that drinking is not only widespread, but it's actually encouraged in the military. And so I was taking my pain meds and drinking heavily, just like I did when I was still in the Army. And then I was taking psychotropic medications for post-traumatic stress disorder. And the psychotropic medications had absolutely horrible side effects. And to me, taking the psychotropic medication was just as bad as the symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder. And so I smoked marijuana when I was a teenager, before I was in the Army. I smoked my first joint in 1972 when I was a 10th grader in high school. And it was Mexican dirt weed. And you could buy a dime bag. And so me and a friend of mine went in on our first dime bag, and we dumped it out into a shoebox. And then we separated out the stems, the seeds, the dirt, and then there was a little bit of herb left. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So when I came on active duty in 1985 is when the Army started the urinalysis program. And so my officer basic course at Fort Gordon, Georgia was the very first class to do a urinalysis. And on our second day at Fort Gordon, that first sergeant lined us up. And he said, okay, you guys are going to piss in a bottle. You better not come up hot. And so we went in and took our little test. And two of the second lieutenants in my officer basic course class came up hot for cocaine. Because that's what they had obviously done at their little going away party before they came up to Fort Gordon. And they were kicked out of the military within 2 weeks. The Army was not playing about a zero tolerance policy for these urinalysis. And so for 21 years, of course, on active duty, I didn't have anything to do with marijuana. And in fact, as an officer, and it makes me feel terrible today to say this, but I chaptered a lot of soldiers out for using marijuana in the Army. I really had no choice. That was my job. But it was zero tolerance. And so I saw a lot of good soldiers get kicked out of the Army for using marijuana in my 21 years of service. And so when I retired from the Army, I was drinking. And one of the first things I did was go out and buy a bag of marijuana, and to use recreational. And it was that same Mexican dirt weed as I had bought in 1972. I was like, I can't believe this stuff's still out here. And of course, I hadn't smoked in 21 years, so I got really hot. And so, but what was going on is I was drinking heavily. I was taking my pain meds, and I was taking psychotropic drugs, and I was smoking marijuana. And I was doing this every single night, and I was getting really messed up. But what I found National NORML online, and I started reading about medical marijuana, which I knew absolutely nothing about what had gone on in cannabis culture for the previous 25 years. And I didn't know anything at all about medical marijuana. But when I started looking online about medical marijuana, I found all these patients and some veterans talking about how medical marijuana helped them with chronic pain and post-traumatic stress disorder. And so what I started noticing was the better quality cannabis that I started using, the less I started drinking, and the less hydrocodone I was taking. And after about 2 years, I was able to stop taking the psychotropic drugs because I asked my psychiatrist, I was having really bad side effects. And so I asked my psychiatrist at the Temple VA hospital, I said, you know, I've been taking these psychotropic drugs for quite a while now. How much longer am I going to have to take them? And he said, look, we're not even going to talk about you stopping taking these psychotropic drugs for 2 more years. That's what he told me. He said, we're done. I didn't even need to bring it up for 2 more years. And I found that unacceptable. And so what I did is I stopped taking the psychotropic drugs. And the reason I could do that is because I had found high-grade medical type cannabis to use. And so after a couple of more years, I completely stopped taking pain meds. And I can't even remember the last pain med pill that I took. And so and then the other thing that happened is I stopped drinking like a maniac. It wasn't overnight, but the better quality cannabis I had, the less urge I had to drink alcohol. And so at this point in my life, I don't take pain meds, even though the injuries are still there, because cannabis takes away the chronic pain. And I don't take psychotropic drugs and haven't for many years, because cannabis takes care of these symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder. And I really was a hardcore alcoholic. I drank a lot. And now I only have, some nights I don't drink at all, but when I do drink, I'll have a beer with dinner and maybe a beer after dinner, like a normal person. Like, you know, like doctors say it's okay to have 1 or 2 drinks a day. And so I still enjoy, you know, drinking my beer. But I don't abuse alcohol like I used to. And the reason is because of cannabis. That's the reason. And there's no doubt in my mind. Now, when I went to my first Texas NORML meeting in 2012, my point was I wanted to tell people about this miraculous experience I had with cannabis. And so my very first meeting, I walked in the door of the Flamingo Cantina, and Cheyenne Weldon was working behind the Texas NORML table. And I didn't know Cheyenne at the time. I was just looking at the material, and an older man came through the door, and he was wearing a Vietnam veteran cap, and he had a dog with him, with the insignia on the dog that this was a dog for a person who had a handicap. And so he came up to the booth and started talking to Cheyenne. And what he told Cheyenne, and I was listening to this, and he said that what happened is at the VA clinic, he came up hot on the urinalysis for having THC in his blood. And what the VA doctors did is completely, immediately, stop prescribing him pain medications and stop prescribing his psychotropic drugs to him, and told him he had to enroll in the drug and alcohol program of the VA and successfully complete the drug and alcohol abuse program before they would resume his prescriptions for pain meds and for psychotropic drugs. And he was asking Cheyenne what Texas NORML could do for him to help him in this situation, because he used cannabis, but his injuries and his post-traumatic stress disorder was so severe that he still needed some pain meds and he still needed some psychotropic drugs. But if you know about medical cannabis, you know, even if you're taking opioids or psychotropic drugs, cannabis helps you take much less than you would normally have to take. And so Cheyenne told this veteran that, you know, there was nothing that we could do specifically for him, but that Texas NORML was working on the issue to bring medical marijuana to the state of Texas so that patients and veterans like him wouldn't have to go through that. And so that was like a light went off in my head that here's the need right here. This is what I can do, because I could be in that exact same situation. And so the next month, January, Joshua Schimber got up on the stage and said, hey, we need a veterans coordinator. And I was like, well, if I was a religious person, I would be like, God put me here. And so after the meeting, I went up to Joshua and I said, hey, man, I'm willing to be the veterans coordinator. And so in April of 2013 is when I became the veterans coordinator for Texas NORML. And what I found is, because I thought my story was unique, but what I have found is hundreds of veterans all over the state of Texas tells my same story. I've heard my story over and over and over again from many different veterans. And when we had our first Texas NORML Veterans Conference in 2014 in Austin, we had it in the library room. And we had no idea if anybody would even show up. We advertised it extensively. And we didn't know who would show up, if anybody would show up. And 85 veterans showed up when we had this conference. And so I stood at the podium because I was curious about who are these veterans. And I did a roll call starting with our most previous wars, Iraq and Afghanistan, and asked those veterans to stand up. And then I asked the veterans of Panama invasion to stand up, and the veterans of the Grenada invasion to stand up, and the veterans of Desert Storm to stand up, and then the Vietnam veterans. And then, and of course, there were quite a few Vietnam veterans there. And so then I asked, do we have any veterans from the Korean War with us today? And 3 men stood up. We had 3 Korean War veterans at our first veterans conference. So that shows how long veterans in Texas have been using cannabis for chronic pain and for PTSD. It goes all the way back to the Korean War. And the veterans have always been out there using cannabis, telling each other about it, and passing on this knowledge from generation to generation of veterans. And so I am so happy to be able to stand here today and give you my testimony and tell you that thousands of veterans all over the state of Texas could stand up here and tell you this same story, including the veterans that are here today. I've heard Shannon tell his testimony, if you've ever heard Shannon's testimony. But veterans, they all tell this same story. And so that's why we're motivated to bring a medical marijuana program to Texas.
Yay.
This is how I do it. Every evening when all my work is done, I sit down in my little easy chair and I take out a jar, and it's filled with flowers, cannabis flowers. And I take a couple of buds and I put them in a little grinder and I grind them up. And then I dump them into a little wooden bowl. And there they are. There's the herb right there. And that's what it is. It's a plant. It's an herb. It's flowers. And then I take my Pax by Plume vaporizer, one of my most prized possessions, off of the charger. And I open up the little oven and I load the little oven with this green herb, and it's kind of sticky in your fingers. And I close the oven and click my vaporizer, and a little light comes on. I think the first light is like purple. And then I wait until the light turns green. That means the herb is ready, it's vaporized. And then I take 3 leisurely hits off of my Pax. And then I watch a movie, or listen to music, or read a book. And over the next hour or so, I finish my bowl of vaporized herb in my Pax. And I was at a meeting at the Flamingo Cantina one night, and Rob Campia, the executive director of Marijuana Policy Project, was there. And Rob was having a discussion with a psychiatrist. I think he's a psychologist. instead of psychiatrist. But he was having a conversation with this doctor, and this doctor, well, I understand the benefits of cannabis, but he said, you know, I'm really hesitant to prescribe something that gets people high. And so what Rob said, and this is something I've never forgotten, what Rob explained to this doctor is he said, look, the medical and scientific term is euphoria, not getting high. It's called euphoria. That's what happens to people when they ingest cannabis. And guess what the definition of euphoria is? The definition of euphoria is a state of intense happiness and self-confidence.
Boo!
Now, please tell me why the state of Texas and the United States government would make it illegal to feel a sense of intense happiness and self-confidence. Does that make any sense? Yes. Does that make any sense whatsoever?
No.
And of course, everybody in this room knows that is completely illogical to say that if you cause yourself to experience intense happiness and self-confidence, then you are a criminal. And if you use cannabis in Texas, you are a criminal, and I'm a criminal. But I don't feel like a criminal. I worked for 35 straight years. I was in the Oklahoma National Guard for 4 years. I was on active duty with the Army as a commissioned officer for 21 years. I served in Desert Storm and Operation Iraqi Freedom. And then when I retired, I participated in the Troops to Teachers program and taught high school English in my Fort Hood community for 10 years. And then I just retired just a couple of months ago. And so, I own my own home. I vote in every single election. I'm a graduate of the Killeen Police Academy, the Killeen Citizens Police Academy, which is a 13-week course for citizens to go through to understand how our police department operates. And it's very interesting, and I'm glad I did it. And I'm very proud of my certificate, graduate of the Killeen Citizens Police Academy. I pay my taxes. I go to city council meetings and school board meetings. But yet, I'm a criminal in the state of Texas. And so are you if you use cannabis. And that doesn't make any sense. Now, there is a justification for us to purposely break the law. Because what you are doing and what I'm doing is what we call civil disobedience. We know that what we're doing is against the law, but we break the law anyway. And here is why we break the law. There's a man called Henry David Thoreau, and he wrote an essay, and the name of the essay is Resistance to Civil Government. And Henry David Thoreau opposed slavery, and he was against the war with Mexico. And back in those days, to finance our wars, we did a poll tax. And so in order to have a war, the government would impose a special tax, and citizens have to pay money to support the war. And Henry David Thoreau said, I am not going to pay my poll tax. And he got thrown in jail for a month. And so he wrote this essay, and this is what Henry David Thoreau said. He said, if the injustice is part of the necessary friction of the machine of government, let it go, let it go. Perchance it will wear smooth. Certainly the machine will wear out. But if it is of such a nature that it requires you to be the agent of injustice to another, then I say, break the law. Let your life be a counter friction to stop the machine. And in the state of Texas, there is a law enforcement machine that arrests 70,000 of our fellow citizens every single year for possessing cannabis. 98%, 95 to 98% of those are for an ounce or less. When I first heard that number, I didn't believe it. I couldn't even comprehend that our state would arrest 70,000 people every single year, consistently, year after year after year, for possessing who are part of that 70,000. And some of you might, I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand, but some of you might be a victim of this machine. And there's a reason that the state wants to keep that number at 70,000. And the reason is because the state and our law enforcement agencies get federal money based on drug arrests. And so it's in their interest to arrest 70,000 citizens every year because there's like a bounty on us. They get money for arresting us. That's why they are so resistant to the law that the legislature passed that told our law enforcement agencies, if you catch somebody with cannabis, you can just write a ticket. You don't have to take them to jail. You can write them a ticket and then they have to show up in court. It's still a Class B or a Class A misdemeanor. But law enforcement agencies want to arrest us because they want that notation in their records that they arrested this many people for possessing marijuana. And so this is a machine, and we are resisting the machine. In his letter from Birmingham jail, Martin Luther King picked up on the idea of civil disobedience. And this is what Martin Luther King said. He said, a just law is a man-made code that squares with the moral law or the law of God. An unjust law is a code that is out of harmony with the moral law. And so Martin Luther King and Henry David Thoreau didn't say we just need to go, we should just disobey any law we disagree with. They said there's a test. Is it a moral law or is it an immoral law? And so I ask you, is the law against possessing cannabis in the state of Texas moral? And these are the questions that I think we should ask ourselves. A basic test of morality is, am I harming another person? And so when I sit down in my little easy chair and take some hits off of my vaporizer, am I harming any other person? No, I'm not. I'm helping myself, but I'm not harming any other person. When I smoke my little vaporizer, do I become violent? Do I start acting out of my mind? The answer is no. My wife doesn't use cannabis. And she's a very gentle, calm person. And she wouldn't put up with me if I acted insane and crazy and drug. She was really disturbed by my drinking. And that's one reason I was so motivated to stop drinking and cannabis helped me, is because my wife was so disturbed by my behavior. But my actions under the influence of cannabis is totally not like my actions under the influence of alcohol. And you know that, definitely. And the other question is about this law, whether it's moral or not. Is it moral to arrest 70,000 Texas citizens every year? Because every person that gets arrested, almost every single one of them, they go to prison. They go to jail. And then they have to bail themselves out. Then they have to hire a lawyer. Then they have to pay the lawyer. They have to go to court. They have a criminal record. If they have a criminal record, it may prevent them from getting a job. It may prevent them from being able to rent an apartment. It may prevent them from getting a student loan. There's all kinds of terrible effects from that marijuana arrest. The other question about morality is, in the United States, reference marijuana, are Black people and Hispanic people treated exactly the same way as white people when they're found with cannabis? No. The statistics say absolutely not. The statistics say that Black people and Hispanic people are arrested at much higher percentage rates than white people, even though we know that white people, Hispanic people, and Black people use cannabis at the same rates. There's really no statistical difference. But if a white person gets caught, there's a much more likely chance that person will be let go or receive a very small punishment. Whereas Black and Hispanic people are disproportionately arrested and punished for using marijuana. And so my belief is that the laws in Texas against cannabis are not moral. Here's another quote from Martin Luther King. Any law that uplifts human personality is just. Any law that degrades human personality is unjust. We are degraded when we have to go around in fear of using this herb that we know does not harm us. We are degraded if we lose our job because of possessing cannabis. We are degraded if CPS comes and takes our children away because we use cannabis. CPS can come to somebody's house and there's a big bottle of Jack Daniels on the counter. They don't take away kids because there's a bottle of Jack Daniels there. But in the state of Texas, if CPS comes to somebody's home and there's cannabis in the home, there's a likelihood that the children will be taken away from that person. That is not just. We are degraded when patients such as me, such as patients out here in the audience, are not allowed to use the medicine that we know helps us better than opioids and psychotropic drugs. And so, in my opinion, this second test the state does not pass as far as arresting people for marijuana being a moral law. And then the last quotation is this. One has not only a legal, but a moral responsibility to obey just laws. Conversely, one has a moral responsibility to disobey unjust laws. And speaking for myself, I believe that I have the human right to choose my own medication instead of taking opioids and psychotropic drugs when I know this medication takes away my chronic pain, takes away the symptoms of PTSD, helped me stop drinking, and also, and this is amazing to me because I was a heavy smoker while I was in the Army, I don't smoke anymore. And I attribute that to cannabis. And I believe that it is immoral for the state of Texas to tell me that I cannot grow my own medicine in my backyard and use cannabis every day instead of taking opioid pain medications and psychotropic drugs. And I'm not going to stop.
Yeah.
So let me talk about OperationTrapped. The first thing I want to point to is this poster. You might have seen it before.
I want that photo.
This is what we're up against in the state of Texas, ladies and gentlemen. When you go up to the Capitol and talk to your legislators, this is what is in their mind. It sounds crazy to us, but they really believe that our herb, cannabis, many of them believe it's from the devil. And many of them believe that if a person starts using cannabis, then they're going to start using methamphetamine, heroin, and all other types of drugs. They believe the gateway theory. But what we know as patients and as recreational users too, and I want everybody to understand that we support, as Texas NORML, we support medical marijuana and legal recreational use. Our opinion is there needs to be two systems in the state of Texas, a medical marijuana program and then recreational use and shops where people can go purchase cannabis for recreational use, but also dispensaries where patients can get medical marijuana. So in Texas NORML, we see this as two totally separate systems. And so when we talk to our legislators and they say, look, we know what you're up to. You want to get medical marijuana, that's just a stepping stone to recreational use.
Yeah.
and they're right. But what we tell them is, we explain to them, look, you as a legislator don't have to just say no to everything. You can use your logic and support medical marijuana, but for whatever, for whatever reasons, be opposed to recreational use. You can support a medical marijuana bill for the sake of patients and veterans. And because we see that as two totally separate programs. And you can vote against recreational use, but support medical use. And so that's how we're trying to convince legislators to vote for medical, even though they're opposed to recreational use. But our ultimate goal is full legalization of marijuana for everybody in the state of Texas and in all 50 states. But back to OperationTrapped, this is what we're up against. And hope for things to change at the federal level. We're going to fight this every inch of the way right here in our state. And so here's what we're doing as veterans for OperationTrapped. Part one, I wrote a letter to Governor Abbott. And the reason I wrote this letter to Governor Abbott is because a lady named Miss Amanda G. Sanchez wrote a letter to Governor Abbott last year, and she has 2 children that suffer from a medical situation, and she believes that medical cannabis could help her children. And so she wrote a letter to Governor Abbott, a very heartfelt letter. I read the letter, talking about how sick her children were and asking Governor Abbott to support a medical marijuana program in Texas for her children. And this is the letter that she received back from Dee Dee Keith, the Constituent Communication Division of the Office of the Governor. Dear Ms. Sanchez, thank you for contacting the Office of the Governor. We are sorry to learn about your son's health concerns and understand you believe medical marijuana could help ease their symptoms. However, Governor Abbott remains convinced that Texas should not legalize marijuana, either for recreational or medical use. We wish your family the very best. Let us know if we can assist you in the future. Sincerely, Dee Dee Keith. And that was her reply. And so when Ms. Sanchez posted this on our Texas NORML Facebook site, I contacted her and talked to her about her situation. And I told her, I said, okay, look, I understand Governor Abbott's position. He's made it very clear here many times. But if there's one group of people that maybe can convince Governor Abbott to support medical marijuana, it would be veterans, because our leaders always say they respect and support veterans. And so I wrote a letter to Governor Abbott, and it's back there on the back table. And I'm asking Governor Abbott to meet with a committee of our veterans, 6 veterans from various conflicts, to discuss in a rational, respectful way why we choose to use cannabis and why we purposely take the risk of breaking the law in Texas for the sake of our health. And we're asking veterans across the state to co-sign the letter with me. And so if you're a veteran today and you haven't co-signed, be sure and sign today. You can also tell all of your veteran family members and friends they can sign electronically on our Texas NORML webpage. And then we currently have almost 800 veteran signatures on this letter, which I'm very proud of. And our goal is to have 1,000 veteran signatures by the time we deliver the letter to Governor Abbott. And we're also going to tell the media what we're doing. And so if Governor Abbott refuses to have a logical, respectful conversation with us about medical marijuana, then to me, that shows that he really doesn't respect veterans or care about us. And he says he does.
And he's immoral.
And so I would agree. And so our goal is to start a conversation with Governor Abbott, but also to let him know, regardless of what his answer is, we're not going away. We're going to keep using cannabis. Just like veterans have been using it ever since the Korean War, and probably World War II vets too. The second part of OperationTrapped is, you'll see in the back, the pill bottles. This is a piece of artwork by Malachi Muncie, an Iraq war veteran. He deployed twice. And he created this artwork called Trapped. And it shows a soldier trapped in a pill bottle. And when I saw this piece of art by Malachi, that was me. I said, there I am, right there. That's me, trapped in the bottle. And that the artwork is created on paper that Malachi makes out of military uniforms. Malachi goes around and does seminars for veterans and teaches them how to make paper, and they use their old military uniforms and turn it into paper and then create artwork on that paper. And so Malachi's artwork, that's one of the originals, inspired OperationTrapped. And so we're collecting pill bottles from veterans, and we want each veteran to put inside the pill bottle the veteran's name, although that's optional if the veteran wants to remain anonymous. The branch of service, dates of service, conflicts if the veteran deployed to a combat zone, and medical disabilities that the veteran would like to use cannabis for if we had a medical marijuana program in Texas. And we're going to display these bottles at the Capitol in Austin during the 2017 session for 4 days. And we're going to set up a table and talk to our legislators and point at these bottles and say, look, these are individual veterans who took the trouble to send us this bottle, and they're asking you to please vote for a medical marijuana program in the state of Texas. And so this is our way of reaching out to our legislators through veteran art to say our veterans use cannabis, it's effective, and we really need you to give us a good program in Texas so that I can go down. So instead of sneaking over to my dealer, and driving home in my truck with an ounce of cannabis, worried about the highway patrol pulling me over for something random and then bringing the drug dog, and you know how that goes. I shouldn't have to live that way. None of us should have to live that way. This paranoia and fear of the government. And so we want our legislators to give us a medical marijuana program. And then part 3, we did a letter writing campaign to Lieutenant Governor Patrick. We've never reached out to Lieutenant Governor Patrick. Just like Governor Abbott, he says he is totally opposed to medical marijuana forever and ever. And so we did a letter writing campaign to Lieutenant Governor Patrick. And what we asked Lieutenant Governor Patrick was, Lieutenant Governor Patrick, as the president of the Texas Senate, please allow the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee, headed by Senator Donna Campbell, to hold a special fact-finding hearing, which they do routinely, but have this fact-finding hearing be about Texas veterans who use cannabis for chronic pain, post-traumatic stress disorder, and other service-connected disabilities, and let our senators hear our veterans testify about how cannabis helps us and provide scientific evidence that shows how cannabis helps us. And Lieutenant Governor Patrick is the person who would give permission for that fact-finding committee. And so we had quite a few veterans. I'm very proud of this. We started off with one veteran. His name, how many of you know Cliff Duvall?
Yeah.
When I went to my first Texas legislative session, am I doing okay on time? Okay. When I went to my first Texas legislative session in 2013, there was one veteran there testifying in front of the committee, and he was Cliff Duvall, a Vietnam veteran, and he was fiery, and he was powerful, and he was saying the exact same things I'm saying today. I use cannabis. Cannabis helps my chronic pain. Cannabis helps my PTSD, and I'm never going to stop using it. I talked to him. And so it started with me and Cliff, and then that's who I knew. I knew Cliff. And currently on my Texas Veterans for Medical Marijuana email list, I have 702 veterans. And so in 3 years, we've gone from me and Cliff, that I knew of, to 702 veterans active in our movement in the state of Texas. So if you're not on my Texas Veterans for Medical Marijuana email list, be sure I get your email today so I can add you to it. But anyway, a good number of those 702 veterans, not all, but some wrote letters to Lieutenant Governor Patrick. And we all got back the exact same reply. This form letter. This form, I got it, and then all the other veterans said, hey, Dave, I got this form letter. And it says, Dear Major Bass, I would like to thank you for taking the time to write me about issues impacting Texas. I always appreciate hearing from great citizens like you who care about the future of our great state of Texas. And then he tells me all the great things he's done in the last 2 years. And then he says, again, thank you for sharing your comments with me. And he doesn't even mention what I wrote to him. It's just a form letter. All they do is get on the computer, enter your address, and then send you this form letter. Nobody even paid attention to what I said or what the other veteran said. So this shows what we're dealing with. But I'm gonna put that, there you go. That's what we're dealing with, right? Reefer madness and form letters. But the thing is, we're never going to stop until we win.
Yeah.
And the fact that you're here in the middle of summer on a Saturday when you could be anywhere, out at the lake, sitting at home playing video games, hanging out. Because we are never going to stop working until we have a medical marijuana program in Texas. And when the number of citizens arrested in Texas for possessing cannabis for either medical reasons or recreational reasons is 0. That's our goal. So our Veterans Conference will be October 15th at the Capitol. This is going to be a fantastic Veterans Conference. We're going to have a Veterans panel. We're going to have a legislative panel and talk about our strategy for the 2017 session. We're going to have a legal panel. How many of you know Jamie Belasia, Jamie Spencer, and a lawyer from Colorado who works on marijuana law in Colorado is going to be on that panel. And then we're going to have a doctor's panel to discuss the human cannabinoid system. We're going to have and explain how cannabis helps us from a medical point of view. Rob Campia from the Marijuana Policy Project will speak. And our keynote speaker is Team Alexis. So we invite veterans, patients, and everyone who's interested in reforming marijuana law to come to our October 15th Veterans Conference at the Capitol. It's going to be fantastic, and then we'll have an after-event social right there downtown. This is our 4th Veterans Conference in the state of Texas. We had our first one in Austin. We had a PTSD marijuana seminar in Killeen, right outside of Fort Hood. Houston NORML did a Veterans Conference, and then this will be our 4th. We will have the legislature meets on January the 10th. Our legislature meets every 2 years, so they convene on January 10th. Activist Training Day will be January 14th. I hope you'll all come to the Capitol on January 14th and attend Activist Training Day and discuss how we're going to talk to our legislators to convince them to support medical marijuana and recreational use in the state of Texas and decriminalization. Our Citizens Lobby Day will be February the 8th. Our first Citizens Lobby Day in 2015, we had 50 citizens. Last year, we had 350 citizens show up. This year, we won 1,000. And then our Veterans and Patient Lobby Day will be February the 22nd. So please put those on your calendar. How many of you know Nan Jenkins? Nan Jenkins is a dietitian, and in Texas NORML we have a senior alliance, and Nan came to the first meeting, and I'm gonna close with this, what Nan told me. I've never forgotten this, and I tell it all the time. Nan said that we have citizens in the state of Texas who use cannabis for medical reasons, and when they get put into a nursing home or an assisted living home, do they get to continue to use cannabis? No, they do not. They'll get arrested, get kicked out of the nursing home, get kicked out of the assisted living facility if they continue to use their medicine that they've used for many, many, many years. What do the nurses give them instead? Pharmaceutical medications. And so this elderly person, and now I'm elderly, so I'm really concerned about this. This elderly person gets put into a nursing home or an assisted living facility, and this person's been using cannabis as medicine for many, many, many years. But inside, once they're in this nursing facility or assisted living facility, they can't use cannabis anymore. And so the nurses and doctors give them pharmaceuticals. And if you go to any assisted living facility, and I told Nan about visiting one the other day because my parents are getting quite old. you'll see elderly people, they're sitting around like zombies. I mean, just sitting there, just totally zombied out. And I asked Nan, and she confirmed for me that one of the reasons is they're over-medicated with pharmaceuticals. And so one of our goals for our senior citizens in the state of Texas is when because this lady told me that the average age at that assisted living facility is 92. 92. We're living really long because of fantastic medical care. And wouldn't it be terrible for us to be in our golden year, our senior years, and have to go to an assisted living facility? And we've been using medical cannabis all these years. And once we get there, we can't have access to medical cannabis, and pharmaceuticals are forced on us and turn us into zombies in the last years of our life. And so after Nan told me that, I've never forgotten it. We have to have a medical marijuana program in Texas. Thank you so much for your support. Yes. Thank you for doing that. I have a gift for Sean and for DFW NORML, so this is for you, Sean, for DFW NORML. This is artwork created by veterans at one of Malachi Muncie's workshops. And so Malachi travels around and does seminars for veterans, and he teaches them how to make paper out of their uniforms. And so this is made out of paper from combat uniforms of military veterans. And then the veteran who made this, and Malachi showed him how to do it, and then Malachi donated some of these to us to give us gifts for our supporters. And it's a combat soldier and a marijuana leaf, and it says, thank you for your support. So thank you very much, DFW NORML, for your support in our movement to legalize marijuana in Texas. All right, what'd you guys think about that? Yeah. Not a bad way to spend a couple hours on a hot Saturday in Texas, right? It's almost 4:20. Anybody ready for some medicine? Yeah. Anybody ready to win some legal medicine? Yeah. All right, cool. So everybody got your raffle tickets, right? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to give us 2 minutes before we do a raffle drawing in case you want to better your chances by going over and seeing Juliet and her awesome DFW NORML volunteers by getting a shirt or some more tickets, what have you. And then we're going to make this drawing. We're going to be done here right about 4:20 and out of here before 5 o'clock. One thing I wanted to mention before we get out of here is DFW NORML, as a 100% volunteer organization, none of us get paid for what we do. We are pretty much beholden to the generosity of people like yourselves and sponsors, as you can imagine. As with most things, it's the law of 80-20. You get 80% of your support from 20% of your supporters, right? So really quick, I'd like to take a moment to thank 2 of those 80%ers, or I'm sorry, those 20%ers contributing 80%. 2 of our DFW NORML sponsors who are in the house right now. First off, Alyssa from PPB. Alyssa, stand up real quick. Alyssa has 3 smoke shops called PPB in Dallas-Fort Worth area, one in Dallas, one in Hurst, one in Arlington. One of the few shops in the Metroplex where you actually get a discount for being a card-carrying DFW NORML member. So that's incentive enough, right? Yeah. So only shop at stores that support your rights. Stop shopping at Gas Pipe. Yeah. If you don't know, Gas Pipe doesn't give a shit about your rights, okay? They just don't. And not to mention, it's really shitty service in there too. I don't know if you've ever been in a Gas Pipe, but they act like they're doing you a favor when you're trying to do business with them. So only shop at stores who support your rights to medical marijuana. Would you agree with me on that? Yeah. Yes. Okay, please vote with your dollars. And we have another sponsor here. First off, Alyssa is one of our Freedom Fighter sponsors, which means she's kicked in $1,000 or more to legalizing marijuana in Texas. So you want to give her a hand one more time? Yeah.
And then one of our other freedom fighter sponsors is in the house, Mr. Mark Linday, right over there with the Liberty shirt on. Give him a hand. Mark is also a veteran who started a company called Green Spring Technologies, trying to put hemp in the hands of people like ourselves. Mark, do you have any of your hemp pins available here? You want to bring one up and just show it off real quick? Mark is 3D, oh, got one right there, Mr. Bass. Mark is 3D printing and injection molding actual commemorative writing pins from hemp plastics. The idea being he wants our lawmakers to rewrite our laws and end cannabis prohibition with a little bit of hemp in their hands. How's that sound? Pretty damn cool. And so Mark, a veteran starting his own company, kicked in $1,000 to help DFW NORML legalize marijuana. So can we give Mark one more hand, please? And after this meeting, I want you to go and talk to Mark about what's really exciting. It's the beginning of a legal hemp market happening in Texas, where we could be using hemp for many of the things that we're not using it for currently. Anybody want to yell out something that we could be using hemp for? Trash bags? Clothes, cars, fuel, medicine, food. Go on and on and on. Toilet paper. Interesting. Hemp toilet paper. Wow. That is a great idea. That is a damn fine argument. Hemp toilet paper. Wipe your ass with prohibition. I think we may have just started a business. Okay, so I think it's been about 2 minutes. I think I've emceed long enough. Has everybody got their raffle tickets ready? Andy? Almost? Okay. Harry's over there buying a bunch of raffle tickets so he wins everything. That's his strategy. I mean, when you have the same person winning raffles almost every single month, you wonder what they're doing. Being really generous. And that's why every time we have an event, Perry wins something. It's crazy. How long do we need, volunteers? Another minute or two?
She's got about 4 or 5 people.
4 or 5 people, okay. So let me ask you, how many people in here are card-carrying DFW NORML members?
Haven't got them yet.
Nice. Haven't got it yet? When did you sign up?
At the Labor Day.
And you haven't gotten your card yet? Eric, you need to go talk to this couple over here. You're fired. Until Wednesday when you're hired.
Just fire up.
Yeah, so if you didn't know, we had a chapter secretary since 2011. She recently split, and now Eric is our new chapter secretary. So, yay! Don't clap for the chapter secretary who split. Clap for him. And it's been definitely a learning process, trying to pick up the pieces where she left off and figure it out. Obviously, we're still figuring it out if you haven't gotten your membership card yet. But I'm sorry, what was your name?
John.
Wanda? Do you remember making a card for Wanda? I don't remember. You do? Well, I went to the post office on what was that, Thursday? Wednesday or Thursday. So you may get it on Monday or Tuesday. Go ahead and email him just in case, though, because if not, we'll get it out to you. So one more time, show of hands. Members, you remember? You'll be renewing? Okay, you can raise your hand, and that's cool. So the one thing I want to ask any of the members, next time we have a normal event, do 2 things for me. 1, wear your card on a lanyard. Okay, show it off, be proud of the fact that you're a member, and let other people kind of wish that they had thought to do that. Number 2, bring a friend next time. Did anybody bring a friend today that's never been before? This isn't your first normal event though, right? You got the same shirt as me. Oh, this is her first, okay, all right. Anybody else first timers today? Raise your hand. Wow, that is a good, hey! That's a pretty good turnout, first timer. Let me ask you guys, do you guys prefer us having meetings at places like a library or like we used to at a bar?
Library.
Does anybody prefer the bar? I feel like you get a different class of person who shows up during the day at a library than at a bar, and you definitely have a whole lot less idle chatter at places like this. You know, that's one of the things that always bothered me about our meetings. We'd have 100 people show up, but 50 of them just want to hang out and drink and talk while everybody else is trying to listen. And so that's why we went from meeting at bars who want us for free to paying $200 to be at a library, because it's just a better place. Wouldn't you agree? Yeah. And I kind of feel like people are a little bit more comfortable here. I feel like it legitimizes us more, us being in a library. Does anybody not agree with that? No? Okay. How are we doing on tickets, guys? Are we ready?
You know, I know there was a deal with the Lake and Bake and all that, but in Ohio, we've rented quite a few cabins and meeting places at parks through the Parks and Recreation Department, and it's very nominal, like $70, and it's a place that'll hold like 100 people or 200 people. Have you thought about maybe trying that?
We've done a park before. Did anybody go to our River Legacy meeting in Arlington? Yeah. It's hot as shit.
No,
Right?
it's like one of their buildings. Like,
Oh, so a park with a building. Oh, okay.
Yeah, like one of the places that we rented is a cabin. They have a cabin called the Hartman Log Cabin, and you can rent that and have events like this.
So,
And then we've rented a yurt, a circular tent like structure.
Yes.
Yeah, and we've rented a yurt.
how much does a yurt cost to rent? I'm curious.
It costs us like $40 or something.
$40 for a yurt?
Yeah. And
That's
it
a
was
deal.
cheap. And it was in Ohio, and it was down by the river, and it was great. We actually had an all-night.
What part of year was it? Was it in the fall?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was in March.
Oh, okay, spring.
So,
So,
same difference.
whew, man, meetings. We've done some outside. Has anybody come to an outside event during the summer with us, like a march, for example? Ooh, you got to be dedicated to coming to those, right?
Y'all had a good idea for like yoga at the park and.
To do what now?
You and Adam had an idea for like yoga at the park.
Oh yeah. Does anybody be interested in a little normal yoga at the park? Totally free.
Sure.
Yeah, sure. Wait, just curious. Raise your hand. What?
Every day you're doing yoga tomorrow.
Oh, they stole my idea, huh? Yeah, of course they did.
You left it laying on the table, Sean.
Just don't steal my little phrase for it, okay? Now I'm stoned.
This is off the subject, but when he mentioned the dates at the Capitol, like, y'all rehash that?
Sure.
And tell me what they were like. I know one of them was October.
The Citizens Lobby Day.
The January and the February dates.
David, could you reiterate those dates for us real quick, the Citizen Lobby Days? Come down here and do it on the mic if you don't mind so everybody can hear.
How many days has Alexis been season 3 now? Almost 500.
It's 500.
I didn't know.
During a cycle, right?
Hey, yeah, Alexis is coming up on 500 days seizure free. The legislature meets on January the 10th. That's when they convene. Activist Training Day is January 14th at the Capitol. We'll have a room rented. We'll have great speakers and talk about our strategy for the 2017 session. And hopefully we'll have sponsors then for our bills. They might come talk to us. Citizen Lobby Day, February the 8th. Veterans and Patient Lobby Day, February 22nd. So I hope to see you all on those days.
27?
I'm sorry, 22nd.
26.
22nd. Yeah.
Just curious, was anybody part of that group of 350 Texans last session that rushed the State House and tried to legalize marijuana ourselves? Carlton, David, Eric. Okay, does anybody want to be part of that 1,000 that are going to do it this next session? What was that?
Are we getting buses to go down to the lobby day?
Are we? The question is, are we getting buses to go to Austin for a lobby day? It's a great question. The answer is yes.
Yeah.
The idea will be, we will get at least one bus will hold about 50 people, charter a bus, and people can ride for free to go to Austin and be part of our lobbyist training. It's a long day. You know, we leave at 6 a.m. and we come back like around 8 p.m. You eat in the Capitol. You get to go and talk to a bunch of people who are your reps and aren't your reps and walk around the Capitol and see all these state troopers, and it's pretty exciting. Has anybody been to the Capitol? Okay, hands down. Has anybody been to the Capitol for marijuana? Okay, pretty much the same people. Great. It's kind of thrilling in its own weird marijuana nerd way. And I'll tell you, when we got that group of 350 people together in front of the Capitol and took that group picture, it was one of the most proud moments in my life. Because I never thought that Texas would get it together like we have for marijuana. When I first got involved with this, I kind of felt like Texas deserved a lot better than it was getting. And now I feel like we're getting closer to what Texas deserves. Don't you agree?
Yes. Yeah.
1,000 people at the Capitol is more like what Texas deserves. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
All right.
At least.
Raffle drawing? All right. Who's ready for a raffle drawing?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's start low, shall we? We'll start with the low dose and we'll dose up accordingly. So, again, this is Honeybee Healthy Living. They are a Texas CBD company. They grow their flowers out in Colorado and they bring it here. They actually make their CBD not from the stalks of the plant, but from the flowers of the plant, which is very unlike most CBD companies. And you're probably going to hear a lot more about this company at DFW NORML events moving forward for two reasons. First, this medicine is helping a lot of my friends right now, including some of the people in this room. And second, they're mega generous. And so for me, when a business wants to support a change in laws and they have a good product to offer and they're willing to even give that product out to people, that is the type of business I want to be affiliated with. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
All right. Well, so Honeybee Healthy Living. Cinnamon flavored vape juice. This is a pretty good little prize pack. Who wants to win this?
Yeah.
Make some noise if you want to win this. All right. Let's pick a winner. Everybody got their ticket ready? Ticket number 619538. Come on down, you are our winner. Harry, is that you? No kidding. Get your ass down here. I told y'all. It's uncanny. It's uncanny. And I promise it has nothing to do with the fact that he smokes me out after every meeting. Let's see that, 619538, is that it? Yeah, you get the $100 anyway. There you go. Enjoy.
Stay up there, Paris.
Yeah, stay up here, Perry.
Be right back.
Over to the bottom, man. That's probably Perry's ticket too. All right, ticket number 619495.
Oh.
619. Larry Talley! Give a hand to the former executive director of DFW NORML. This is the guy that got me to get involved with DFW NORML back in 2011. You want to say that real quick?
Yeah, this medicine is actually going to go to a young little boy who needs this very badly. He's been suffering for a long time from several different ailments, including autism, fetal alcohol syndrome, just to name a few. And so that's where this medicine is going to go to today. I'll tell you that it works. It's been very successful with this young boy's life so far. And you'll hear more about it soon.
Yeah.
All right, now for the big kahuna, 500 milligrams. Woo! That's a Saturday night, people. All right, let's see. Who's our winning ticket? Ticket 619515. Oh yeah, come on down. We got a winner. 619515. Take a look. Nicely done.
Aw.
Congratulations. You want to come up here and take a quick picture of me?
Well,
It's the first timer. The first timer right there who just won. Okay, can I get David and our other two winners to come back down real quick and we get a photo real fast? And at the end, can we do a group photo? Is that cool with everybody? Okay, so once we get this photo, I'm gonna get everybody to try to like come down and get closer a little bit, and we'll take a photo from here, and then we'll be done. You guys go do something awesome. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. 1, 2, Larry.
Do you want to
Come on up
closer
here.
here on the chairs?
Yeah, if you guys want to just file down here, that'd be cool.
Okay, that's
Yeah, hold it up. Oh, actually, here, let me get my honeybee brochure.
Oh, somebody just, grabbed it.
I have a stack.
Oh, hey, what's up, friends? Good, how are y'all?
I think
Okay, can you guys all figure that down here? We're gonna get some photo real quick.
Do you want them to hold up the honeybee?
Yes. Group photo time. Everybody wave to our live stream.
I need the people on the sides to come in a little bit.
Come in a little bit on the side.
Okay, let's take a couple. Let's take one serious, and then I want to ask you to do something else in a second.
All right, ready? 1, 2, 3.
Evidence.
It smells good in here, you guys.
I'm a library, Eric.
What?
Okay, so this is a thing that is a DFW normal thing in photos. You don't have to do this, but it's kind of a DFW normal thing. Okay? If you want, please do that in this next photo.
All right, let's see
Yeah,
it.
the real thing, y'all.
There you go.
Awesome.
I like how everybody's All right, DFW NORML, thank you very much for your time and attention today. Dave Bass, thank you very much for coming. Appreciate it, guys. Stay in touch. Thank you. Let's go walk around and meet some people. Thanks for watching. Herb's the word.